Communication skill is regarded as one of the hardest skill to learn, but today I'll be simplifying this skill, and today's video contains the following structure. First, I will be talking about listening techniques, then the importance of communication skills, then being assertive and dominant, then body language, then practice, and also in the end I will be giving you some book recommendations so that you can improve your skills even more. So let's begin with listening techniques. The one thing to keep in mind is a good communicator is a good listener. You will only be able to communicate well once you listen the other person well. So what you have to do is you have to give them your full attention and you have to engage with the person. This is a real life scenario and it's not like you're watching a video or a documentary or something like that. It's a one-to-one connection when you're talking with a person, and it is a many-to-one connection when you are seeing a video, because you are not connecting with the person in real time. So if it is a one-to-one conversation, you have to engage with the person, then you have to empathize with the person, you have to understand and respect his feelings and put yourself in his shoes in order to see the world through his eyes. Now comes a very important point, and please keep this in mind because I'm putting an one extra star on it. That is feedback versus not feedback. Feedback is a crucial part of information because feedback helps the other person understand or know that you are actually listening instead of just doing random stuff and just letting them talk. So you should learn when to talk and also when not to talk. They are very crucial because you don't want to be talking in the wrong position, and that is why sometimes talking less is more beneficial, because instead of just spouting your words like a random person, whenever you are speaking, your words are having a weight. And the third crucial point to a good communication is stop dragging your stories in the middle of someone else's. You would get pissed off too if someone did that to you. Let's say there are 4 or 5 people sitting in a group and one of the guys is telling a story, and in that story you find a particular example that resonated with you too much, and so you interrupt that guy and start telling your own story. That is absolutely not the way to go, because if you were the one telling the story and someone else interrupted you, you would get pissed off too. So with listening techniques out of the way, now let's get on to importance of communication skills. The number one importance is building rapport. So what is rapport? It's like a connection between two people. In the world of communication generally, there is a term called breaking the ice, which means actually approaching the person or talking with the person. And the one thing that helps break the ice even better is rapport building, because you are connecting with that person immediately. For example, imagine there is a guy like Andrew Tate, and in front of him you are being a weak little, I don't know, shallow little man, and so he will of course not talk to you, and he will not even want to talk to you because you are not his type in talking. Like, he is always promoting this discipline hardcore mindset and you are portraying yourself as a weak person. He will of course not talk to you. But if there is a person who is kind of weak in his body language and you use your weak body language in front of him, then both of you will actually match because both of your frequencies are similar. This also applies the other way around, because if someone was portraying weak body language and you just went in there like an alpha, he will of course not resonate with you. The second thing is no misunderstanding. Once you learn to communicate well, you will not create any misunderstanding in the viewer's eyes or in the listener's eyes. For example, if I had a shitty communication skill and I was trying to talk in a very weird way and using a lot of ums and ahs and just not being clear and direct with my message, you wouldn't understand what I am saying. Now don't go into my accent because I'm an Indian and not a native speaker. That apart, if my message was vague, you wouldn't understand what I am saying. But the fact that you are understanding what I am saying right now is because I have a decent level of communication skills. Now the third most important is the strongest power in all of anime, that is connection and bonding with people, which is basically like getting to know each other, bonding and forming a friendship or forming a connection between two people and all of that stuff. Now let's get on to being assertive. So at first, what you have to understand is you should use the word I more often. Here is a very nice example, that is, maybe we should do XYZ. You're talking to a group, let's say, but instead of this sentence, you should use this sentence. I think we should do XYZ. This way, you are being more assertive. You're being, in a way, more self-centered. Now, I don't mean self-centered in a bad way, because you're not being selfish. You're being more focused around yourself and you're trying to be more assertive. The first sentence, maybe we should do XYZ, portrays that you are not sure about yourself. Whereas in the second sentence, when you are telling that I think we should do XYZ, you're telling to people, I have a mind of my own, I have a thinking of my own, and so I will suggest my best opinion. Number 2, share your perspectives. Share your point of view basically. Two things that you must understand: don't agree with everything, don't disagree with everything, which basically means respect both your and their perspective. Now, if someone has a perspective that genuinely cannot be respected, I would just say that respect it while talking to them and just get away as fast as possible from that person. But that apart, generally speaking, if you agree with everything, you will seem like a creep who is just trying to get closer to the person. Whereas if you are disagreeing with each and everything, you will be seen as an arrogant brat who does not understand anything and just disagrees with everyone and just thinks about in his own way. Being assertive is good, but being too much assertive is not good. As I always say that too much of positive can turn into a negative. Instead of getting good at communicating, you will get worse at it, because nobody likes to get disagreed upon. But it's not like you don't have to disagree with anything. You of course have to disagree with something so that you will actually come as authentic. For example, you genuinely don't respect someone's point of view on a particular matter. You should say openly that no, I think this is better, or I think that thing should be like this, or something like that. You just have to put forward your own opinion, and of course your opinion is going to match a little bit with the other person. Now, number 3 that I already talked about a little earlier, that is, be clear. Nobody likes vague stuff. It's because it is harder to decode. So what you should do is you should directly get to the point and make your message as concise as possible. Basically, don't beat around the bush. Whatever you have to say, just say that much and don't try to add extra stuff. Clear, concise, direct. These are the 3 things that you should keep in mind. Now let's talk about body language. So at first we are having posture, and the first point is that alpha isn't always better, especially power play situations. Now what does it mean? Alpha body language is like taking up all the space and acting like a dominant guy and all of this, but that is not always good. For example, if there is a power play situation, let's say someone in the power hierarchy is higher than you. In that time, if you try to act too much dominant, the person with higher authority than you will feel like his authority is getting violated. For example, just imagine that you are having a job and you are walking into the boss's room and you are just being all dominant and all of that, and what will your boss think? He will think that why is this arrogant brat being too much alpha in my room, because it's his room, you are violating his authority, and he will genuinely not like it. So that is why alpha isn't always the better. Number 2, define your own style. Your own style is just your own style. For example, there are people who, whenever they sit, they just put their arms like this. Some people like to put their arms like this. Some people don't put their arms on their faces. Some people stand up with a very nice posture. Some people stand up with a little bit slouching posture. Similarly, so on and so forth. So everybody has their own style. Now, of course, you should be avoiding things like slouching posture and all of these things, but generally you should not copy one person and you should try to build your own custom style. For example, you all have heard about the man spread, right? Like men are spreading their legs and just taking up as much space as possible. Now that is a one way to sit, but how I sit is like putting one foot above the other foot. So this is my own style. I don't have to be bound to a particular style. Similarly, you have to create your own style. Now, in point number 3, that is look confidence, I will just give you a short trick, that is keep your head, back and torso in a straight line. That is the best tip to get a straight posture and look confident. Now let's talk about learning to read body language. There are different and various and varied things to learn in this, but I will just go over two quickly, because at the end of the video I will recommend books to learn body language also. Let me go over 2 body language hacks quickly. That is open arms versus closed arms. Generally, in 90% of the cases, open arm, for example, if I am opening my arms like this or I am keeping my arms open, it indicates that yes, I am having an open body language and it is inviting, it is warm. It feels like you are actually welcoming the person who is coming to talk to you. Whereas if I am having closed arm like this, it's like I am trying to protect myself and I don't want anyone else to get closer to me. Number 2 is pointed versus diverted feet. So if someone's feet are pointed at you, that means they actually want you in the conversation. And if someone's feet is diverted away from you, then that means they don't want you in the conversation. These are very general stuff, and this does not apply to each and every like 9 billion people out there, but it applies in most of the cases. There are people who have a closed arm posture, but they have an open and good vibe around themselves. And there are people who have their feet diverted away from you but still want to talk to you, want to engage with you. So there is not a clear rule, but in majority of the cases, what I just told you works the best. And now don't just go looking at everyone's feet carefully or everyone's arm carefully, judge it in 1 second and be done with it. Don't think about it too much. This ties with the third point, that is, don't adjust consciously. Human brains are made to detect change. We have been evolved to do so. So if you change too much fast, people will notice, and that is one thing you don't want to do. Basically, it makes you look weird, and what you should try to do instead is do it subconsciously. For example, you are randomly entering into a room, and in the name of building a rapport with someone, you go from very alpha body language to a very weak body language. This does not work because it comes around as fake. So my pro tip is don't change too much at once. Now let's talk about authenticity. Don't try to become someone. It's fine to have idol figures and like examples to be like, but I will always say that try to have your own style, try to define your own style. Don't try to become somebody else, because that does not work. People are very good at figuring these things out. Another cliche tactic is that be yourself, and it actually works, which is basically define your own style. And number 3, don't break the image. Don't break the image is same with body language. That is, don't change too rapidly. For example, I'm currently talking in English. I'm a multilingual. I know about 3 languages very smoothly, and Japanese I'm currently learning, so that apart. If I were to change between all the languages right now, you wouldn't understand what I'm saying. I could go to Hindi right now or Bengali right now or a little bit of Japanese right now, but you wouldn't understand what I am saying if you are someone who only speaks English. This similar philosophy should be applied when you are dealing with authenticity, because if you are changing too much at once, you are actually not letting the other person understand that who actually are you. They will have 2 different faces of you or versions of you inside their head, but they will actually not know that who actually is the person. Let's say you are going from alpha to weak body language. At first they will think that wow, you are an alpha, and then they will think that oh, you are a weak person. So they will be confused on what to think about you. Now let's talk about practice. And by now you should already know that it is the only way anything is going to improve, and just consuming content won't improve your situation unless and until you go out and practice. There is a very thrown around phrase from the dawn of human time, that is, practice makes a man perfect, which is wrong. Personal opinion. You are free to disagree. But what I rather believe is practice makes someone understand themselves. Perfection is a vague thing because nobody knows what the quote-unquote perfect looks like. So instead of getting perfect, we should think about incrementally improving over time. By now you probably have heard about the Atomic Habits concept of improving 1% every day, and that results in 37% improvement in 1 year. Similarly, once you practice, you are going to improve a little bit, and after a long period of time you will improve masterfully. Now let's talk about book recommendations, and here are the following books that I will recommend to you. Even if you don't read the other 3 books, just read these books and it is enough. But I will still say, if you have the time, read those books as well. That is, at first, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Just put 1 or 2 stars above it because it is so important. Then we have How to Talk to Anyone. Then we have Talk Like TED. If you are trying to be a masterful communicator with one-to-many audience instead of one-to-one. And then What Everybody is Saying. That one was a cool wordplay, but yeah, these are the 4 books that I will recommend to you if you are trying to improve your communication skills and you're trying to improve your social skills, communication skills, learning body language, and all of these things together. So now what to do? Number 1 thing you can do is you can go and subscribe to my email newsletter, that is Saturday Stories, where I upload different stories and different experiences I learned and different techniques to make your life 1000 times better. And then what you can do is you can go and watch the shortest study guide, which talks about so many things in the realm of studies, and it is an all around compiled guide which is also concise, that helps you study better no matter which phase you're in. Or else if you're struggling with focus like 99.99% of the people in earth, then what you can do is you can go and watch this video on how I hacked my brain to focus, the 5-minute rule. And that was it for this one. I'll see you in the next one. Start if you haven't already.